Welcome back. This segment of the Sports Source brought to you by Games and Things. Folks, they've got everything you could possibly want for your home. Stand-up arcade games, jukeboxes, and then the smaller stuff like dartboards or Boss Toss, which is a cool new game they have, ping pong tables, pool tables, you name it, they got it, including home theater seating. Folks, from small to large and everything in between, Games and Things carry so many different items that are designed to make your home fun. The envy of all your neighbors, Games and Things, ourgameroom.com. All right. Everyone's been talking the last few weeks about which teams, or the last few years, which teams will be Tennessee's permanent foes in football. If you get three, if it's just one, who is it? And then the SEC has handed out a basketball schedule that gets two permanent rivals. I just thought, it's one list if you're looking at football, and you see it in your head. Well, these are the three. But if I say basketball, it kind of changes, because the big rival there is different than the big rival. So I thought, okay, let's make it tough. Let's say, who are your three biggest rivals, period, over football and men's, the two revenue sports, football and men's basketball. Who are the three? And I looked at it, and I could only come up with six that would even be legitimate options. If somebody wants to say it should be Tennessee and Missouri, then I'll let you start your own show. Most of you had them at your own time. But we can all go to our own spots. Here's what I got. What if the SEC decided to give each school the same three permanent opponents for football and men's basketball? Who are Tennessee's three biggest rivals? I had Tennessee, Alabama, Tennessee, Florida, Tennessee, Kentucky, Tennessee, Auburn, and I really only put them on there because of Bruce Pearl. Because I don't think Tennessee basketball and Auburn basketball have much aside from Bruce Pearl. But Tennessee, Georgia, it's where you recruit, it's next door neighbor. Tennessee, Vanderbilt. Those are the six. If somebody, is there anybody I left out there that you think should
No,
get
I don't
permanent?
think so.
Tennessee,
I really
South
don't.
Carolina just hasn't earned it yet. So if you had to pick three permanent rivals, I'm going to start with Vince over here. Who's first? Who's number one on the list that Tennessee should play in both sports every year?
I think it's Alabama because to me, football would get a little bit more weight, and obviously those two have had their battles in basketball, but football is a must. So I would start with Alabama.
Tennessee and Alabama, I think, rank still 2 and 3 in the SEC all time in basketball. Tennessee's downturn there for years dropped them behind Alabama, but I think they're still 2 and 3 behind Kentucky. So they've had some good basketball battles in the past there. So okay, your number one is Alabama. Who would your number one be?
Alabama.
So I got right here, Alabama, Bama.
Mine would be Kentucky. Mine would be Kentucky because you are their number one rival in basketball. You've beaten them more than anyone else. And in football, you've played them more than you've played anyone else. So I would go Kentucky number one. But that's just me. Alabama would be a close number 2 for me. Is Kentucky on everyone's list or no?
Yes.
No.
I just made my case. You can't ignore it. All right, well, let's hang on then. If you're not going, why wouldn't you go Kentucky? Or you just think somebody else is better?
Because I don't think, and I know this is contrary to a lot of people that would have them on the football permanent 3. I know there's the history of the years played, but to me, I would not have them on my 3 permanent for football. I would have Florida there instead of them. It's a no-brainer and is number 1 in terms of basketball. There's no doubt about it. But because I would have them on the outside in football, everybody else to me checks both boxes, so that's why they would be 4th on that list. But I would have no problem with it.
Well, let's think. All right, so Tennessee, Alabama, Tennessee, Kentucky. So I got Alabama and Kentucky. Everybody else has Alabama, Kentucky. He's got Alabama, Florida. Does who's your third?
Florida.
Florida. All right, we're all in alignment. Alabama, Kentucky, and Florida.
Yeah.
You've got Alabama, Florida, and who?
Vanderbilt. Because I know they stink.
How do you have Vanderbilt in for Florida, but not in for football, but not Kentucky in for football?
Because it's in state and it's still a rivalry. I mean,
Lexington's 4 minutes closer. I just showed you the drive.
yeah, but you cross state lines. Look, I know, I get it.
No, these are all just preferences. So that's why you're here.
So I would still say the in-state. And to me, that gives more weight than the years that you've played them. Yeah, so everybody doesn't look at it that way, but I would still give it to Vanderbilt versus Kentucky.
Yeah. How close was Vanderbilt? Anybody's number 4 here?
No.
They're not any good in basketball right now or football. So the rivalry part loses a little bit of luster because they're just not
And
very
there's
good.
been too many years where they haven't been any good.
I'm trying to look long term too, not just now. Because if you do it now, I think Auburn, because of Bruce Pearl, would creep higher than without Bruce Pearl. When Bruce Pearl leaves Auburn,
Who cares?
who cares at all? So
They become Georgia.
yes, and that's an interesting one. Did anybody have Georgia? Was that 4?
I would probably, since
It might be
I
Was that your
go
fourth?
back, no, Auburn was my fourth.
Okay. Your 4th was Georgia?
Georgia.
The interesting thing is you just don't have a ton of history with them in football, and their basketball's
Right.
always been bad.
Right.
Yeah.
Except for the Hugh Durham
And
cheating
I'm
years,
kind
if
of
you ask
looking
Don
at
DeVoe.
it, John, who makes you feel the best when you beat them? That's the rivalry. That gets to be the rivalry to me, and that starts with Alabama.
Yeah.
That's about as good as it gets right there, baby.
Until you complain afterwards that your schedule is too tough, which you know is going to happen.
And he'll be the one doing it. yeah, that's good. All right, that's interesting. So the 4 of us are right. So the only difference then is just Kentucky or Vanderbilt.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but it's close. Like it's those 4.
Okay, very good. When we come back, 2 former Vol receivers and 1 former Oklahoma quarterback are up for spots in the College Football Hall of Fame. We're going to ask these guys who would get their vote if they only had 1. And we'll explain next why we're talking about a former Oklahoma quarterback compared to 2 former Vol receivers. Coming back on the Sports Source.